Okay, so welcome to the RDA ESIP Earth, Space and Environmental Science Interest Group meeting. Next, please, Shelley. Our meeting objectives, and I'll get back to this later, we want to learn about what the Global South is doing in Earth, Space and Environmental Science research infrastructure initiatives in their country, and hopefully get them to join in a catalogue that we've been building up over the last few years. We've chosen 3 topics for this one, mainly because for this meeting, mainly because they seem to have bubbled up in discussions. So the first breakout will be on a catalogue that we're starting to develop for vocabularies, ontologies and other semantic resources relevant to Earth, Space and Environmental Sciences. And I will lead that one. Then Shelley and Danny are going to lead one on the challenges inherent in the existing data publication workflows amongst stakeholders and improve the discovery of Earth, Space, Environmental Science domain repositories, particularly in the Global South. And then Barbara Magana will lead one on raising awareness of the potential of fair implementation profiles to help us share our data and information, not just within the Earth and Environmental Sciences, but beyond, and also share them in a global way. Next. So as I said, this is introduction, and you notice, being the conservative, cynical person, I allowed 10 minutes to get the system going. We'll then review the catalogue. We'll have, if you like, 5-minute presentations so that you'll know what's in the breakout and you can make your choice, report back and wrap up and next steps. Next. Barbara's here, thank goodness. So again, I'll put in the chat session, whoops. Here are our meeting notes, and I'd like to suggest that you work off that. Oh gosh, sorry, the notes. Let's do this once again. Gremlins. If you can open that Google document, and you'll see fairly high up on the list, there is a place for you to put your name, your email, your country, and to please try and highlight any infrastructures that you are leading, because we'd really like to know. And we're so hopeful that we're going to get a few people here from other countries. Right now I can see everyone's starting to fill that in. So according to the thing, we have 24, so we should get at least to 24 names. Next, please. Okay, so just as an awareness, this group probably started in 2017 when, as you probably heard, the US EarthQ project, which is quite a substantial one in the US, came to the Montreal plenary and said, well, we want to try and get EarthCube to form international partnerships. And then a few other groups, like in Australia, we've got Ozscope, and then the Europeans had EPOS and ENVRI. And also in the US, you had ESIP and a few other groups who all came together, and we said, well, hang on, there actually are quite a few groups working on environmental science data infrastructures. Can we get together? And so in 2018, we formed as a interest group, which was done in partnership between ESIP and RDA. Over the next couple of meetings, we were trying to get these infrastructures documented and work out how to form them and consolidate them. But I think Helsinki was quite a breakthrough, because we noticed we had a lot of attendees at that meeting from Africa and also from Asia. And they weren't really connected to what we were doing, and we definitely were not connected to them. And so up until then, if you look at the map, which has got the Global South, Global North, we realised that most of the initiatives that are in our catalogue are from the blue countries. So what have we got to do to get better connection and find out more about what these countries are doing? Because you can actually hear snippets of what they're doing, but one of the problems that these countries have had in participating in RDA is, of course, the travel costs and the ability to get to the meetings. So to me, one attraction of being virtual is that hopefully there are more people signing up and coming in who will help us learn more about what they're doing. So I'll just now in the chat box introduce you to our catalogue if you don't already know it. And I'll put that in the chat. So if you go to that document, it's got our catalogue. And I'd just like you to take a few minutes, if it's okay, and just scroll through it and see if your pet project is there. And if not, just add it. Just mainly put in the name and an address and your name so that we know who to contact to get more information. And so there are actually two groups. You can also maybe look at some of them and think, oh, that's outdated. I'm now the person in charge of that one. So do update the name. And from about row 55, we then have the cross-domain groups that are not exclusively Earth, space and environmental science, but also are more broad, but have a component of Earth science data in them. So again, it'd be lovely if we could see some new ones coming in, particularly from the Global South. So I'll just give you a few minutes to just have a look at that, work through it. I see people are updating names, etc. This is really, really good. We're getting another generic one. So again, we don't, like, what can I say? Anyone can put their project into this. We don't care how big or small it is. We just want to raise awareness of who's building what where, and so that we can share it.
Leslie, maybe could you clarify on the scope of what can go in there? So some might be projects that are quite finite, but some might be infrastructure that remains. Maybe
that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You're building an infrastructure that has a chance of enduring. Okay, it's not going to be something that's a one-off and won't be there when the project is finished. And we all know that in these days of uncertain financial times, your project may get cut off, but you know, you have an intention that you will keep it going. And maybe a project like this is going to help you raise awareness of your project so that we can help keep it going. Okay, something's. Okay. All right, so we might move on to our agenda. so that we can have more time in our breakout groups. So thanks, Shelley. I'll now put the link back to the Google document there so you can work on that. And so now we're going to do 5-minute presentations on those 3 breakout topics that we talked about earlier. And the idea is that you choose which one you want to join in for the breakout. And they're all going to be labeled 1 for vocabs, 2 for domain repositories, and 3 for fair implementation profiles. Next. Okay, so I'm going to present this vocabulary one with Rowan Brownlee, my colleague from the Australian Research Data Commons. Next. So vocabularies, vocabularies, vocabularies. What is the issue? And the issue is there are too many of them. And it's starting to become quite pronounced, particularly from a user perspective. But there are many reasons why someone starts another vocabulary, and there are reasons to have multiple. But I guess with ARDC and also a project with ESIP, we've been trying to understand the reason why people are starting other vocabularies. And quite common, the reason is that the creator of a new vocabulary does not know that there is already one in existence. Another one are those darn developers who find it easier for their pet API to access a vocab that is set out the way they want their API to read it. That's probably being a bit harsh, but there are other reasons why. And again, I'd welcome your opinion if you want to put it in the notes. For whatever reason people are doing it, it's the users that are getting very, very confused. And so at ARDC, we run this vocab service. I've got a link on the right, and you type in the word borehole, and that concept is there in 12 different vocabularies. If I type in rock type, I think I end up with 30. The thing is that what we do with this vocabulary server is we allow anyone to come along and put their vocabulary in it. And when we started doing this about 10 years ago, there weren't all that many people developing vocabularies because it was a pretty hard thing to do. Now we find that more and more people are doing this. And so you've got to ask, why is this a problem, and what can or is being done about it? Next. And so this is the importance of governed vocabs, and we call it the bullseye model. And what we're arguing is that today, with things like schema.org and the flexibility we've got with linked data, we can create these profiles of an information model, which is linked to vocabularies that are governed vocabularies in a controlled namespace. And so people can actually put together a profile using vocabularies from multiple sources. You don't have to have them all in the one place. But to do this, we need to know which vocabularies we can trust. Next. And so I've often thought of looking at what Tim Berners-Lee did when people first started putting information on the web, and he developed this 5-star ranking. And by just having a quick star against the data set, you kind of knew whether you're just getting a PDF or something that complied with the rules of linked open data. And so that is just something a few of us are working on to see whether or not we can get this. So like for the ARDC vocab servers, again, it's not judgmental. It's actually just an operational readiness level. How good is that vocabulary? So that if you then get that list of boreholes coming back, you look at the star rating and say, no, yeah, I want the 5-star. My purpose demands that. I want it to last longer than, as long as my data set is going to be on the web. Next. This is a work in progress. And so we've got this model of a 5-star ranking for Earth, Space, Environmental Science vocabs. But again, it's not official, but you can sort of see how we're trying to get convey to the user. Next. I'd also like to highlight that in CoData, there are some initiatives, and on the right, this is from Simon Cox, 10 simple rules for making a vocabulary fair. Again, coming to the other side, if you're a developer, this is what makes your vocabulary more usable, sustainable, and enduring. These are the things you need to think about. And I'd also like to highlight that at the Go Fair Symposium, and there's a link there to the registration, because it's free, and there are 2 vocabulary sessions, and I think they're on like November 30th or December 1st, depending on what country you're in. But one of the things that CoData is also talking about is we're fully aware of the Core Trust Seal for repositories to start to develop something like that, where a vocab goes through an evaluation process, again, to help the users know which are the vocabularies that are trusted. And partly why CoData is involved in this is because they connected through to the science unions. And so it's nice to then know not that the vocab is technically brilliant, but that there is some endorsement and validation of the actual content, the terms, the meaning, that they are valid and respected by the community. Next. So really the focus of my breakout is just have a look at the catalogue. We've only just started. Do you have an opinion on the fields we've got? Have we got the right ones? And can you add to it? And maybe if we get through that, we might also start tapping into ideas about governance and how we can inform the users, which are the better ones of earth-based environmental science to use. Next. Okay, so now I'll hand over to Danny and Shelley, who are going to talk about what their breakout session is about. Over to you two.
Great. Thanks, Leslie. Let's see, do I have Shelley?
I'm here.
Okay, great. Yay. All right. Are you the magic slide advancer as well?
I am.
Okay, nice.
I don't know that you and I have slides unless you put them in.
I put
Yes.
a few in.
Oh, great.
We have slides.
Shall I let us move on then?
All right. So, the Breakout 2 will be focused on domain repositories, and we decided to frame this breakout in the context of the full data publication workflow from the perspective of a repository, but certainly including all of the stakeholders in the data publication process. So I'm gonna maybe there are only 3, I'm gonna run through them really quickly, and then Shelley, maybe you can kick me back into play if I start heading out in a left field, or if I drop the ball or anything like that. We're looking at this from the data publication sort of workflow. And data publication has become such an integral process of open science, and yet, among all the stakeholders, the full workflow and process still is far from ideal. If you take a more critical look, there's really no unified model of what this looks like, the handoff or the flow from data from originator through to scholarly publication. The roles of all the stakeholders, the various hands that data passes through, and the very activities that are enacted upon it. So this involves several stakeholders. They each have their own perspective and drivers and requirements based on those drivers. And yet there's very little communication across all of these stakeholders to better understand where those needs are coming from, better understand those drivers, and also to communicate each other's requirements and where there are these bottlenecks and barriers that data originators are experiencing, or inefficiencies in the full workflow. And this really applies to all of the domain repositories, as Shelley was referencing, the global north and south. And so we feel if we can look at this problem from the big picture, it will entrain all of the global repositories, global domain repositories. You can hit the next slide. And so this is really simple approach. What do we know? Well, we kind of know the general flow of things, right? We kind of know the data originator, the big stakeholders, and we kind of know data flows in this direction. And then, you know, one thing that I feel we don't necessarily capture is once that data is published and referenced, cited in a scholarly publication, those data live on to repeat this whole cycle again. And I think that's a really important piece of this workflow that we want to kind of visualize. So we kind of know gross things about this workflow. And if you hit the next slide, what we don't know is all the detail and the nuances and those drivers and needs and where the bottlenecks occur. And then once we do that, we can kind of try and figure out how we can lower those barriers or how we can relieve those bottlenecks. And I think it's going to require a lot of communication through those three major stakeholders, the data originator, the repository, and the journal publisher. It would be great if, and one of the goals of this breakout is to kind of come to consensus on what this data workflow looks like. What is the path that data takes from the data originator finally to that DOI and that appropriate citation that gets handed off to the publisher, and what those reviewers go through on the publisher side. And so, you know, we came up with a very rough draft of a schematic, kind of just a lucid chart workflow, and we'd like to bounce it off to everyone in this breakout and then start refining it, or maybe throw it out altogether and start over. We want to really kind of approach what this looks like as a talking point for communications across the stakeholders. And so that's the goal and the objective of our breakout.
The only thing I would add is if anyone was on the Thor and Freya team that actually did the workflows, we did have that as input. And we are building more detail. So join us.
All right.
Okay, so thank you for your plug for your domain repositories breakout. And now we'll pass to Barbara, who's going to talk about the FAIR implementation profile. Helen Glaves was also going to lead this, but at the last minute she got sick. And so Barbara is taking it over on her own. Okay, over to you, Barbara.
Thank you, Leslie. Okay, can you give me the next slide, please? Okay, where is the next slide? Sorry. Next. This one. Okay. I am from ENVRI FAIR. I've been involved in ENVRI already since the beginning, since 2011. And now we are on the third project called ENVRI FAIR because we have now the goal to make all research infrastructures included more fair in sense of data and services. And last year I had the opportunity or also the task to help finding ways how to assess the fairness level of the research infrastructure's data and services. And this is why I am dealing with this work. And I found out also, I could also collaborate with other initiatives like Go Fair, to find out how one can deal, what are the different approaches to assess fairness, and what exactly these FAIR principles mean, and how we can implement these FAIR principles. And so what the first approach was to find out how research infrastructures, which FAIR implementation they have. So to find out which choices they had to reuse other existing FAIR implementations, and or if people are taking the challenge to develop their own FAIR implementations. And we thought that the first approach is really to gather these FAIR implementations. And once you have a profile of FAIR implementations, you can then start to evaluate their fairness. So, but this is then the next step. Okay, next slide, please. And this is what we come up in ENVI FAIR. We had a very, very long questionnaire, about 60 plus questions, because I wanted to have not only human readable questions, but also machine readable answers to these questions. And to disambiguate them, I had to make them very clear, so that people should answer very specific to the questions. And with help of drop-down lists, they should then point to the real to answers that we can include in a knowledge base. But it was still very, very complicated. So I continued to develop this together with GoFair, and we came up with, for each FAIR principle, with one question related to metadata and one related to data, if appropriate. And this is the FAIR implementation profile that you see on the left, on the right side. Okay, next, please. And we developed an ontology where we find we define a FAIR implementation community as a community having the goal to produce FAIR data and metadata. And this community declares a data steward that, in the name of the community, declares a FIP declaration, where that the community is using an available FAIR enabling resource or a FAIR enabling resource to be developed, which refers to a specific FIP data related question or FIP metadata related question, and this refers to a specific principle. Next, please. And this is the FIP environment. What are we using? We are using a very nice tool from the data search called Data Search Wizard, which enables us to put our questions there, and which is able to link to existing resources that can come from different third parties. We have included NanoBench here as a possibility to mint resources, to get a GUPRI for each resource, and to mint a community, because we have also to get a global unique resource for identifier for this community. But also you could also include Wikidata and other resources with a persistent identifier. And you fill out the questionnaire, and once it is filled, you can then export this information as RDF to a triple store. And in the triple store, with all this information in the triple store, you can sparkle this information and get out a convergence matrix. Please, next slide. Yeah, and this convergence matrix lists the resources, the FAIR enabling resources in the rows, and in the columns you see the different communities participating. And we have here a score or values between 0 and 3. 0 saying that the resource is not used. 1 is resource is to be developed, and there's an intention to use this to be developed resource. 2 means that the existing resource will be used in future, and 3 is an existing resource which is currently used, which is I think the most important one, but it is also we found out also important to have the option to store the information if people what people are going to use in future. So I can hopefully also share. No, there's an online resource that you can also click on. It is we are gathering a lot of information from different communities, and we are GoFair is organizing together with Co-Data these FIP workshops that I'm co-facilitating, and where we are gathering the different FIPs from communities like ENRI Fair, but also social sciences and health sciences. And this is continuing till end of November, and will be also presented at the Fair Convergence conference end of November. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, Barbara. Next slide, please. Okay, so once again, we want you to pick which breakout session that you want to go to, and remember the number 1 for vocabularies, 2 for repositories, and 3 for fair implementation profiles. Next. Okay. So what I want you now all to do is to pretend you're trying to mute me. Up in your pictures, you know how the mute button comes on and you get those 3 dots up the top. When you click on those 3 dots, which is the blue arrow, you'll have a pull down menu that enables you to change your name. Okay, so you get that rename button or rename pull down, and can you just put 1, 2 or 3 in front of your name? So like for me, you don't need, leave your name there, but see, for those of you who can see mine, and Shelley's done it as well. Could I ask you all to just go 1, 2 or 3, please? Because this is how we will get you into the right breakout session. So just checking, few of you haven't done it. Otherwise, you'll end up in a breakout session that you may not want to be in. Okay, I think everyone's just about done it. So what I understand now,
it looks like some people aren't able to rename, but maybe if those people could post their breakout of choice in the chat with, oh, maybe they're resolving. If you can't, maybe if you could post it in the chat, people would still be able to see your preference.
Okay, so has everyone done that? Oh gosh, we've got to get Barbara to room 3, otherwise you'll be leaderless. Now, if you, once again, go back to our notes document, you can see at the top of page 5 of the notes, it's got a breakout session, and each breakout session has a notes. So click on the link in the under the heading of the breakout session and you will get some notes. And what I'd like you to do is, again, under the leaders, work through the topics. But the last dot point at the end of the page is we would like 3 breakout feedback items to bring back to us all, because just think of those as a sheet of butcher's paper, and this will be your report back. Okay, so see everyone in I think it's 40 minutes.
Leslie,
Yes?
I don't have anyone for breakout 3, so do you want me to still do 3
Barbara.
room?
Barbara, Oh,
Yeah.
Barbara is breakout. Oh, nobody's doing breakout 3.
Yeah, it's all 1 and 2. So do you still want me to set up 3 rooms or just do 2 rooms then?
Do you mean nobody wants to do fair implementation profiles? Gosh.
How about learn about them?
Okay.
That might be
Probably
another.
set it up. Somebody may join, and if not, we can close it down.
Okay.
Okay, so Sarah, are you
1
fine?
minute and then I'll set it up. Give me 1 second because I have to manually put everybody in. So just give me 1 minute. You can just chat amongst yourself for another minute.
Oh, so some people have said they want to do more than one. Oh my gosh. Sarah, while you're
Yes.
doing it, we'll get everyone started. How can we switch rooms?
Well, can we just do manual then? I mean, like, can we do automatic and then give people 5 minutes and then switch rooms
No.
and everybody will random?
They can jump out of their room,
Yeah.
and then if Sarah stays in the main room,
I
she
can put you back. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can
Okay.
tell them which one. Okay.
Okay.
So for those
Let me
of you
just
that
put
want to
people in
move
first.
around, we'll all start in a set room, and then you can, if you want to get sick of it and want to go to another one, come back and Sarah will assign you to another room. Okay. And please take good notes because then you can share them. All right.
Swati, which room do you want to go into? Swati's the only one who didn't vote yet.
Swati, are you there? Can you please vote? She wants to go to 1.
She wants to go to 1. Okay. All right. Everyone's in. Hello, Claudio? Hello, Claudio?
Hi.
Hi. Everyone's gone into a breakout room right now. Do you want me to put you into a breakout room just to join the discussions?
Well, I was just trying to listening a little bit, so I am a little bit late on this one.
No.
I might join another one then. That's fine.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello, Barbara.
Can I go to room 1?
Room 1, okay. 1 second. Where is this? Hi, Lisa. Hello, Lisa.
Hi.
Hi, everyone's in a breakout session right now. Did you want me to just randomly put you in one of the breakout sessions just to join the discussion?
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Hi, Sarah. Okay, so everyone is in a breakout session right now. I'm gonna make you host.
I'm like, where is everyone?
Yeah. I think now you're the host. You should be able to click on breakout and you'll see that everyone is, you'll see that. So
Yes.
they might run another breakout session. And what she does is that she asks people to put a number in front of their name. So you know if they're going to go to room 1, room 2, or whatever, room 3. So some people are going to swap. And I think that's it after their breakout.
So if she does another breakout, what time does this breakout end? Oh, 11 minutes left. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So if she does another breakout, I'm assigning those participants to that appropriate room. 1,
Yes.
2, 3,
Yes.
4. Okay.
Yes. She'll give you all the instruction. And then what I was going to say. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
She may run another one. She doesn't know. I think probably just depends. And then I didn't ask her how long. The preset is 30 minutes for each breakout, but just check with her how long she wants the second one. And then you can, and then it will just stop and do that countdown to let people know that their session's almost done.
Okay. And is it the same name as on the document we have?
Yeah. So Leslie is the main person. I think there's Shelley and Shelley, Leslie, Aaron. They're all there. Yeah. They're
Okay.
all co-hosts. You'll see that they're co-hosts.
Okay, perfect. Who's my main contact?
Main contact would be Leslie.
Okay, perfect. Okay, awesome. Go enjoy your time with your new dog.
Okay, thanks. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
And here we are all back again. Maybe not. I think we're all automatically muted when we return.
That is true.
It's nice to say now. The others are returning.
I'm going to go to our document and try to get what I hope are 3 key points.
Oh, you're brilliant.
Shelley,
Thank you.
Shelley, I was thinking about this. Was one point seemed to be that there were a lot of assumptions that needed to be broken. I'm trying to get the right phrasing for that, but like this was a good start, but there was a lot of people bringing in things that hadn't been thought about, where there's a lot like external points on this workflow.
Yes, that's really good. So we really, I guess, you know, we need to continue to develop the workflow. There are other references, and Peter was giving us some, I think, and others. To some extent, those were considered, but it would be great to review that in a larger context.
Okay, so Shelley, have you finalised your breakout points on page 5 of the main notes? Because I can go first while you're sorting it out.
Would you, Danny, come over with number 2 and just look what I'm typing and make sure it's good. Everybody else too for breakout 2. Check out what I'm typing.
No problem.
Okay, so how many people did we? Oh, you all came back. That's amazing. Okay, well, unfortunately, which was ironic, as you'll see, Barbara's group, nobody wanted her, which is, I'm so glad she came, but it was disappointing no one took up her session. But okay, so with the vocabs one, it became clear that either people are aware of it, or like Ari was talking about his work in Edinburgh, where they've got variable use of vocab. Some people are using well-defined ones, other ones are using less well-defined ones, and you can sort of see this issue emerging where it's an issue within infrastructures. And then once you realize that, you start to realize, which is my problem, that I'm in a few of these projects and you're just seeing the same thing coming up. The second point was that interoperability across the disciplines need to be navigated. So it's not just trying to fix up what's going on in earth sciences, but beyond. And Barbara kindly talked about iAdopt, and there are a few other groups in RDA who are working on vocab. So if we can connect through to that so that we get the perspective of earth sciences within a broader picture about what everyone is doing. Barbara pointed out that the fair implementation profile can be used to gather and document which vocabs a community is using. But there was also agreement. I'm sorry, I know I'm in charge and I said 3 points, but I'm going to have 4 points because really I ended up having 2 groups. The thing that we thought was that you need societies and the science societies, the unions, WMO, who are doing the climate vocabs, get a really good perspective. And let us not forget groups like AGU, EGU, ESIP that can help bring the community together around this topic and start to get it to higher profile. Because what is actually driving it, so within, say, the Geochemical Society, they're now coming to the table, is coming from the publishers, and the publishers insisting on fair, and you can't be interoperable until you've sorted out your vocabularies. And we're finding that we've got project-based or national solutions to it, when really we should be, you know, let's not develop an international, a national vocabulary for geochemical terms in Australia. Let's do it in the US, let's involve Africa, anyone who's doing it, China, and Europe as well. Okay, so that's from my breakout session. Does anyone want to add anything else from who was in my group? Okay, so now we'll pass on to the main group, and I see they've been naughty too and got 4 key points. Yeah, well, I set the bad record. Okay, so can I hand over to Danny and Shelley to report back, please?
Sure.
I sure do hope you read these. Do they look okay?
I think they do. I was watching you. I was watching you type. I
Okay.
think they're fine. I added some behind you, so I think they're great. Do you want to go through them, or you want me to?
I think you should.
Okay, so well, first I want to thank everybody that brought their perspectives to Breakout 2. This was really good, and hopefully we communicated our objective by this maybe a little more clearly than going into the Breakout. The general consensus was that the workflow is kind of a narrow, maybe too narrow of a perspective, or definitely a narrower perspective than the total use cases that might be out there. So we invite everybody to kind of still comment on that workflow, take a look at it, and capturing everybody's use cases in this various niche relationship between repository and journal publisher workflow would be great. We need to ensure that the definitions and the terms of the workflow are clear to everyone. There are a variety of perspectives, as I said, and there are different scales that we need to capture. And so this last one is a great idea that just kind of materialized to maybe bring this conversation to a workshop setting, where we can kind of really dig into this and maybe refine it better than we can in the very short time that we had here.
Okay, so does anyone else want to add anything to that?
Go for it, Shelley. You look like you want to say something.
Danny, did you not submit something to ESIP on this topic? And
I did submit something to ESIP on this topic. Hooray! Well, so ESIP's changed its format though. So if it doesn't align with the theme, we may get booted out there, but I laid it on pretty thickly. So we'll see if I can align with the theme.
So before we go too far, does everyone know what ESIP is? Erin, if you're still here, put a link in the chat, please. I can't multitask for much longer. I've been going since
Wait,
4
not
a.m. this
Erin.
morning.
Erin gets a break. Hang on, I'll go find the link.
Okay, so
ESIP
is Earth Systems Information, Earth Science Information Partners in the US, and they hold a summer meeting and a winter meeting. Okay, and Danny has put this in as a suggested session for the coming meeting in January. I'm not going to call it the winter meeting because it's our summer. So the January meeting will be a in January, yeah. And they're just sorting out what the program for that is now. There we are. Erin's done it. Thank you, Erin.
Beat you to it. I still got it. And I'll also say, Danny, that I talked to Megan today and she was trying to fit most of what came in, and they got a lot of good stuff. So I don't want to guarantee that it went in, but I'm pretty sure it'll be in the program.
Great, thanks.
Okay. So now, so does that finish the breakout, saying can we move to the wrap up and next step?
Ooh. Yes.
Okay, so as I said, we've been going since 2017, and we started out as the ESIP RDA Earth, Space and Environmental Sciences Interest Group, and looks like we're still going. But one of our co-chairs was Erin Robertson at the start, and she has contacted me to and Pedro Correa has agreed to come on board and help. He's from South America. He also helps solve a problem that we've been getting into trouble with from Research Data Alliance, in that, if you didn't know, we have only had female leaders in this, and we've been getting at our gender diversity issue. And so Pedro is also not just representing that, he's also representing a much younger person, with due respect to everybody else, and not including Danny, chair for us. So I'd just like to welcome Pedro as the chair of this group. Would you like to say anything? Are you still here?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for this opportunity to be part of this group. We have in South America a lot of challenges to develop a data repository, develop the data culture for data exchange. So we have a lot of challenges mainly in Brazil. So this is a good opportunity to be part of this group and try to bring the scientific community in Brazil the results of that we have in our interest group. Thank you, Shirley. Thank you, everyone, for this opportunity.
And I forgot, Pedro's third and most important attribute is he is from the Global South. So we will get more diversity in our program, I am sure, from his inclusion as one of our chairs. Right. Oh, now, does anyone want to raise anything about this or what our next steps should be?
Hi, this is Ruth. I just wanted to note that I recently started working with NASA on a project to bring all of their data from all of their divisions under a common federated search. So that does include way more than earth science. It goes into biology, physical sciences, you know, planetary science, solar physics, you name it.
And
so this bit about going totally across domain, I think will get some attention, at least from that community. And I, of course, would like to make sure that that's well connected with everything else. I'm not into reinventing wheels.
yeah, and that was purely what I was going to say, the biological sciences, and having been inspired by Sujivan's talk this morning, my time, genomics, you know, there's an enormous world out there that really needs some of this thought and attention, which, yeah, one step at a time though.
I think, as I said to the people that joined my group, this has been the dilemma ever since we started this group, where we flip from, do we work to just try and get the earth sciences on a more integrated keel before we start going laterally, or do we go laterally? I guess it varies from meeting to meeting, and maybe we do both.
I think there are things happening in the biological domain, you know, GBIF, and pretty well organised in many places. So maybe it's to encourage them to participate in the RDA and then have a birds of a feather one day.
That's a good idea. I note that NASA Biosciences has got a gene lab, which is well integrated with Obo Foundry type ontologies, etc. So there's a natural in there, I think, for the kind of project I'm now funded to work on.
So just a suggestion, I mean, there is a vocabulary services interest group, and Barbara is running the iAdopt group, which is looking at observation profiles, cross observations and measurements. Do you suggest that, say, for the next RDA, we try and get a cross-domain vocabulary discussion going, where we compare notes and find out how advanced each is on schema.org and interoperability?
Well, you've tapped a bit into it with the last ESIP meeting, I believe, with some of Mark Schildauer, Ramona Walls, and Pierluigi Buttigieg. I mean, I've always used the genomic and molecular biology group as an exemplar, because they developed from many other disciplines to be a discipline at the time that the capacity, the computing capacity and shareability capacity was happening, and no one lab could do it. So they really are terribly well established, terribly well, and I would argue possibly more than most communities in the world. That doesn't mean that in between are all these ecologists, like the people who measure the stuff behind me, any good. But you'd have to do it carefully. But I think thinking about it, yeah, there's a very strong discipline in those genomic domains. And I don't know about sharing, you might end up, yeah, I don't know, it would have to be thought about, but yeah, I think, and then you've got the taxonomists like GBIF as well. So.
And I do note, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to step on you. I thought you were done. I do note that one of the interesting things about this NASA thing is that, for example, I've been working in the cryosphere for a very long time, and I note that there are actually glaciers on Mars and Pluto, and it would be nice to be able to actually do a query that returns glaciers no matter where they're known, including Mars and Pluto, for example, as well as the Earth. And I think that's part of the goal of the use cases we're talking about in this project.
That's really exciting, Ruth. So one of the biggest challenges for our JGR Planets journal to accurately cite data across all of the different planets, and the approach that each of those PIs, those teams are taking is really challenging. Oh, you all froze. I would be very interested in how things are going with the conversation.
Unfortunately, Shelley, you cut out a lot there, and I got the last bit about being interested, but in what, I'm not sure.
In the interest of time, Shelley, could you put it in the notes?
Yep.
Okay, all right, so here we go again. I guess, don't forget, can somebody put the link to the Earth and Environmental Science interest group in the chat, please, because I can't talk and do links at the same time. But we've got your names, and so we'll try and send it back to you to see if you are not a member, whether you'd like to become a member. Again, please post suggestions like this. We'll try and not leave it to the last minute again, and make suggestions for what you think would be a good topic for this group for its session at the next plenary in 6 months' time, but also some ideas on how we could use the power of RDA to get something that's cross domain, okay, and looks at the issue of harmonizing vocabularies, you know, the content, not the structures of vocabularies, but the actual contents across all the working groups. Because if you think about it, now that RDA is starting that United Nations Sustainable Development Interest Group, that's probably one that's definitely going to need it, because you're not going to be able to work across those UN SDGs without solving this vocabulary problem, and at the same time solving the issues of where you store the data in research repositories. So I think I've exhausted myself. Is there anyone that wants to say anything in conclusion?
Yeah, I just want to say that by the next plenary, the iAdopt group will very probably already have a framework, developed a framework to be discussed and refined with hopefully also this group for being able to annotate data, but we are not inventing something new. We are building on existing vocabularies and approaches. And yeah, I think this might be interesting, not only for the environmental sciences, but also for other sciences having observation in the focus.
It might be worth trying to do that as a cross-domain, interest group, working group meeting. Okay. All right. I am exhausted, everyone. So that's not a very good final say, is it? Okay, well, look, thank you all for coming. I hope it was a productive meeting for you all and that you liked it. And all these notes, including the breakout session documents, as well as the presentations, are all linked to the page for the conference, for this session. So you've got it all as a permanent record. Okay. And thank you again. Okay.
Thank you, Leslie.
And
Thank
thank you
you.
to the chairs. Whew.
No,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Another 6
Bye.
months.
Thanks very much.
Thanks
Okay.
all.